Hey, what's going on YouTube? It's Jody. I'm gonna do kind of an update, but not really. Um, I have been on T for 10 months and 4 days now, so it's pretty awesome. I don't think a lot's changed. From my last video, I'm not sick anymore, so this is how my voice sounds and everything like that. At the moment, I think that it's gotten a little bit deeper that I've noticed lately after I've been sick. Maybe it's just because I was sick and I didn't have a voice. But this is what I sound like. And the main point of this video is I've been getting asked a lot about if I knew I was trans and things like that. And so I wanted to share those thoughts with you. I already have them wrote down, just based on some current conversations I've had within the last couple of weeks. So I'm mostly just going to read my thoughts. I might elaborate on some things, but maybe not. So, the first part of it is, I'll just read it to you, so then that way it makes a little bit more sense. I'm going to read it off my computer and on my phone, so, let's see. So, my whole life, like, I knew that I was different than, a lot of other people. I didn't really ever identify as a female. I just kind of identified as myself. I didn't really put myself in any particular box, or I didn't label myself any particular way. I was like, well, this is just me, and this is how I feel. Currently on the inside, nobody really knows. I didn't express anything to a lot of people. So I just kind of went on my way. I focused on school and sports because that's what, I was told to focus on, getting my education, any way I could. If I could get a scholarship playing sports to do that, all those great and wonderful things in life to better myself, and, be, a productive person, and things like that. My parents valued education very, very much, and being better off than, what I grew up as, so it was pretty cool. So I ended up putting away all of, like, my feelings on who I was. I put those all aside to, just really focus on getting what I needed to get done, and eventually thought everything would fall into place. Eventually I'd have it all figured out. I did struggle with, for a little bit of time, thinking, I'm a girl, everyone tells me I'm a girl, so, and I like girls, so, why doesn't, a lesbian label fit me? And I just couldn't really quite answer that, and I don't think necessarily that it was a bad thing that I couldn't answer it. I just was like, no, that doesn't fit me, that's not who I am, I'm just me, and I just happen to like girls, and, there are some guys that I like, too. So, I didn't really get it, for a really long time. I did, however, when I was 15, 16, somewhere in there, I would talk to girls online, and even I talked to a couple here, actually, in my hometown, where I live, and things like that, and they went to other schools, and, what ended up happening is with these two girls from other schools, I met them, and I never wanted to meet any girls I would ever run into because I was afraid that they would find out my secret, that I was born a female. And I didn't really understand that. I didn't really put a lot of thought into it at the time either. I just kind of went with it because I was like, I'm just going to, see if I can pass as a guy, and things like that. And I didn't think that I was ever lying to them. I didn't think it was ever a lie. I just didn't really quite understand it, and obviously at the time, being 15, 16, and, not really knowing, what else was out there in life, because I wasn't sheltered, but, I didn't really have a lot of variety of people in my life like I do now. So if I would have known some of the people I know now, back then, like in high school, and people were more open about who they were, or who they are, then maybe I probably would have figured out that I was probably trans a long time ago. But at that time, I didn't. So I ended up meeting these two girls. They went to a different school than I did. And I met them as a guy, they knew me as Jody, he, things like that. And as soon as I would meet them and I passed, I stopped talking to them. Because I was afraid. I was afraid of what they would find out about me, what they would say about me, say to me. I was really, mainly afraid just, of the possible repercussions of them finding out that I was a female, after I just, presented myself as a guy to them. One time it did backfire, though. The girl that I did meet ended up not going to another school the next year. She ended up going to my school that I was going to, my high school I was going to, and she was actually in my homeroom. Really super awkward, for one. And two, she told all of her friends who I was, and I had classes with a couple of them, and then my secret got let out the bag. And then that's when some rumors started flying about how I was a lesbian, and nothing was ever said to me. Nobody would ever say anything to my face. They all said it behind my back, and one of my friends defended me one time, saying that I wasn't gay, I wasn't a lesbian, and, shut their mouths, essentially, because nobody else was saying anything. And this was, in between, getting ready for a class that I wasn't in, and so I was super excited that, my friends had my back, and I had expressed to my friend, that actually stood up for me, she was my best friend at the time, that, I like girls. I had a girlfriend at one point in time, and she knew about it, and I told her that I wasn't gay. I was like, I'm not a lesbian, I don't identify that way, this is just how it is at the moment. And, we just were like, okay, we acknowledged that factor, and we kind of moved on, and it was never brought up, and she had my back. So it was super cool. Let's see, I ended up going to school, on a softball scholarship for 2 years at a 2-year school in Oregon. I did get offered another softball scholarship to a school in Iowa that I ended up not taking because I ended up joining the Army. But while I was going to school in Oregon, I ended up meeting tons of people that gave me a lot of exposure. And when I was 19, I met my first trans woman. And I was so fascinated with her story, with her experience, and I didn't really understand why, but I was like, oh my god, I have to find out more information. So I started networking online, I started looking up definitions, I started doing all this research, and I ended up getting on LiveJournal, and I used to do a little bit of blogging and things like that back in the day. I don't anymore. I haven't been on my LiveJournal in forever, but it's still there. And I started talking to I joined a bunch of trans, female FTM communities on LiveJournal, and I started talking to people, I started networking, just having that information available to me. And then the trans woman that I met, I actually was introduced to her boyfriend over the phone at the time, and we're still actually friends. And we talked, and he just mostly listened to me, and, he would, share some things with me, and he would tell me some things, but he never told me that he felt I was trans based on my experiences. He's like, well, it's something that, this is something that this is your journey, you have to figure that out. And I was like, but he was like, I will tell you this, that we have shared a lot of similar things, because he knew right away. And, he grew up in Michigan and things like that. So maybe it was, just he was, in Michigan they have a, pretty good trans community at the University of Michigan and things like that. So, his exposure to the community was way more than mine was, at that time. And he was still in high school when he started identifying as trans and came out as trans and things like that. And then he started hormones when he graduated once he turned 18. Let's see here. So, and the awesome thing about it is, and I still talk to this other guy that I met through my friend's boyfriend, and we're all friends on Facebook. We chit-chat. I've talked to them on the phone. I've texted them. We just have actually never met in person. We've just never been able to meet up, so that's kind of unfortunate. But one day, the goal is to meet up. Eventually, if I have to go to them, I'll do it. One lives in Michigan after living in Oregon for a while, so we just missed each other when my friend's boyfriend moved to Oregon for a while, and the one guy's always been in Missouri. area kind of floating around. He did go to Utah one time, which is a couple hours away from where I live, but he didn't actually tell me when he was there. Otherwise, I actually would have drove to go meet him, unfortunately. And then, let's see here. Obviously, so to speaking, it's kind of obvious that I was a tomboy. I was never really girly. I cut my hair in 4th grade and enjoyed having my hair cut. I enjoyed people, thinking I was a boy all the time. The bathroom situation was a nightmare. Complete utter nightmare. Because everyone's like, why is there a boy in the girls' bathroom? So that was always kind of awkward. I would just, storm in and do my thing and storm out, It was always really, really awkward because I was always super boyish and I was always being mistaken for a guy. And I never corrected anybody, as long as I didn't meet them in the bathroom. When strangers would think of me, identify me as a guy, I would never correct them. My friends actually corrected tons of people for me, and I got super embarrassed, super bright red, and I didn't understand why, because that was also prior to meeting this trans woman and things like that. So it was kind of interesting. But, once I met and educated myself and learned about it, I was like, dude, this is totally who I am. This is what I want to do. This is who I've always been. No wonder why I've always had, these inner struggles and not really identifying with how I was born. Why haven't I ever got that? And things like that. So that was about it, is that, in the beginning, I didn't know, and, some people are always like, you know right away, and looking back on my life, yeah, there were signs that I should have, seen if I was more, if the trans community was more prevalent in my area. I grew up in a really religious LDS community, and so, it's limited. The gay community itself, even overall, is still limited, but if I hadn't, went to Oregon, if I hadn't actually joined the Army, I got stationed in Hawaii, so I met a lot of cool people and things like that, and I started networking, and so I figured out that my inner struggles weren't just my own, that other people had similar feelings, similar situations, and things like that I had gone through, and that this was my place in the world, and things, and just that. It was who I was. I finally recognized, why I always wanted to be the dad, why I didn't want to have kids. I couldn't ever imagine being pregnant. Oh my God. It was like a catastrophe. I'm like, I'm not supposed to have kids. Are you crazy? Why I always wanted to be the boy part, and I was super upset when I couldn't be the boy part. When I got out of elementary school, the teachers were like, well, you can be this girl part. And I'm like, no, I want to be the boy. I want to be this boy part. So I just kind of went with it without really understanding it for a really long time until I was about 19. And then as I said, I joined the Army. I decided to postpone transitioning because I wanted to, serve my country. And a lot of my trans friends that I have and that I had at the time as well, they all supported me in that decision. I ended up interacting with other trans people in the military and things like that, not where I was at, but online, and, it was just something that they wanted to do, and so they said, being in the U.S., you can't be that way and be in the military, so it was, if you want to do it, you got to kind of postpone the situation and understand that. But I think what really hit me was that I accepted who I was and everything like that. I accepted myself. I accepted my body, for what I could, for what I had. It wasn't anyone's fault that, it was the way that it is. It's nobody's fault, but, the only thing that you can do is recognize that this is who you are and, pick that path to transition, to modify your body, to take hormones, and things like that. And, there's some people out there that are okay with, just having surgeries and not taking hormones, or taking hormones and not having surgeries. We all have our own path on how we view ourselves and how we want ourselves to look. So, yeah, I think that is about it, actually. I hope everyone has a good New Year's Eve. I hope everyone stays safe. And I will see you guys all in 2014. Take care.